Hello, West Ham Network. It's Holly, and today we are going to be discussing your thoughts about the biggest topic at West Ham at the moment, and that is, of course, the departure of David Moyes. Yes, West Ham Network. Now, I asked everyone on X, or Twitter as it used to be known, how they were feeling about saying goodbye to David Moyes. If you enjoy this video, please do give it a thumbs up, drop us a comment, and make sure you're subscribed to the West Ham Network. Now, back to David Moyes. It has been a long old road with him, giving us some of the best moments that I've ever experienced as a West Ham fan. In fact, the best moments that I've ever experienced as a West Ham fan, but also causing quite a lot of frustration recently with a gigantic dip in form. So I've always been one to give quite a lot more time to managers in the hope that things can be fixed than most people would. And I will always be appreciative of the memories that Moyes has given me in the last few seasons. Being in Prague was honestly the most incredible thing that I could have ever not even imagined. I wouldn't have even imagined it was possible when I began supporting West Ham. But a time came this season where even I knew that it was time for us to part ways. Moyes had to go for us to maintain our achievements or to even be able to have a chance to step up to the next level. But when news broke of his departure, it all felt quite bittersweet to me. So I knew it was the right move for us to move on, but it brought up all the feelings of how many incredible times we'd had under him, and it really felt like the end of an era. And for me, we had to move on, but he's brought us European football, a trophy. He's basically given us stability. He's taken us from fighting relegation to expecting European spots, and that is not easy, especially at a club like West Ham. Now, let's run through some of your comments and see what you've all been saying about David Moyes' departure. So Tony here, that's not Tony, that's me. Tony here spoke about the positive times that we've had under Moyes and the opportunity for us to embark on another project now, as well as saying that he hopes that Moyes is given a good reception at the Luton game. I completely agree with this. I think Moyes has done a hell of a lot of good at the club, despite the frustrations that people have had and the ways that we've wanted him to do things differently in the last season or two. I think he's achieved a hell of a lot against the odds that we would never have thought of. I remember thinking, what on earth are we doing when we brought Moyes back? And then you look at what we've achieved from that point onwards. And I think that's one of the things that I feel most like about, because I know that I wanted him to leave, but at the same time, there are the good memories. So we've got Vincent here. He spoke about the impact that the Conference League had, including how it may have papered over the cracks and meant that the league form was overlooked for an extra season. Now, this is something that I'm definitely guilty of, and I did let it paper over the cracks because it was something that I never thought I'd see us achieve. And for that reason, I was like, look, he's achieved something amazing. We're used to being like 16th, 17th, if we're lucky, in the Premier League, the stress of it every single year. And we went and did something incredible. We got European football. It meant we could attract a whole new caliber of players. Like, it was really exciting. And I know that people always say, like, it doesn't make any sense to be like saying, be careful what you wish for and all that stuff. But I couldn't see another manager out there that I thought was going to be able to do better with the tools that we had at that point in time when we just won the trophy. Obviously, as the season then unfolded, hindsight's a wonderful thing. I think straight after that would have been the perfect time for Moyes to part ways with us. But there we have it. So that was Vincent. And then Don said that he was grateful, but spoke about the need to bring in some fresh ideas and to try something a bit different. He also spoke about Lopetegui, adding that he knows a good player and uses them in the right position. So again, this is something that we definitely need to do. We need those fresh ideas. We need those, just a bit of life being breathed back into West Ham, because it feels like it's all been sapped out in the last few months. But we've got the tools, we've got the basics. We just now need to get it going. And this is what the new manager is going to hopefully be able to do for us. Nicola spoke about the sadness of the way that it has ended with Moyes, and I completely agree with this. It's such a shame that it ended with so much negativity around his final games. Rather than him being able to go out on a high, I suppose, and walk away from it feeling like he's done a good job. I feel like that's probably that boat has sailed, that ship has sailed. But I suppose leaving after the Conference League, after won that would have been the time to do this. But first of all, what club pushes someone out after they've just won your first silverware in decades? And secondly, what manager ever quits while they're ahead? There are very few. I guess you could look at Klopp and say that he's not necessarily had a decline and he's disappearing from Liverpool. But other than that, there aren't many managers who know when to quit. It always seems to be that they hang on that bit too long and then go down when fans are frustrated with them. We have got Sean here. He summed it up perfectly, saying there are so many mixed emotions that come with looking at Moyes his whole time at West Ham. We had some times where things were really positive and it was a great time to be a West Ham fan. And then we've seen the shift that's ultimately seen him leave the club. Jeff said that Moyes deserves a good send-off after everything that he's been through with us. But that it is now time for a change, which it is indeed. Mick, he brought up the huge challenge that the next manager has on his hands, and this will show what can be done with the current squad that we have. It's definitely going to be interesting to see, because we're going to have a massive job ahead of us with the summer transfer window, as we're massively lacking squad depth. We've got a lot of work to be done. We're going to need to bring in players that fit with the manager. There is so much to be done. So this new manager has got his work cut out for him. Dave commented about the many memories that Moyes has given us as fans, as well as speaking about the way that everything was handled in recent months. So the news of him leaking to the press before the club said anything was definitely a sign that it had not been dealt with at all as professionally as it could have been, which for me seems like a massive shame, because it's brought a lot of negativity about. I think the lack of transparency has meant that fans have become frustrated and probably pushed harder to try and get Moyes out when it was inevitably happening anyway, which has caused a little bit more unrest. I'm sure it's affected the players in some way as well. And then you look at the media who've been slating the West Ham fan base, saying that obviously we've got unrealistic expectations and things like this, as well as slating the club. Like, basically a lot of negativity has come with a lack of direction and probably not being a little bit more transparent once it sounds like we knew that Moyes was gone. And I could see from the recent press conferences that Moyes had, you could tell that I did a video saying 1 foot out the door. You could tell he had 1 foot out the door, because he'd just given up trying to justify. He went from trying to sort of justify the achievements that he had in recent seasons and why that sort of justified now not doing so well, to just not really caring and being like, yeah, screw it. So it's all been an interesting turn of events in recent weeks. And then finally, West Ham fans said that they're upset Moyes was not able to adapt and change, because if he did that, he would still be the right manager for West Ham. Do you agree with this? Because I'm very intrigued by this. Drop us in a comment. Let us know what you think. But I think this is a really interesting point, because it sums up the challenge that we had quite perfectly, because Moyes did incredibly for us, putting West Ham in a position that we never thought that we could have dreamed of 5 or so years ago. But with this success came ambition and increased expectations, and the new challenges, from managing world-class players to having top clubs after your top talent, and needing to switch from playing on the break to having a possession-based game and actually being able to dominate other sides. And ultimately, this success played a crucial role in his downfall, because as fans, we naturally wanted us to continue this upwards growth and this momentum. Yet Moyes is not the kind of manager to take huge risks or play ultra-attacking football. And this is obviously where the next manager steps in. But essentially, we were then asking Moyes to do non-Moyes things. And I think this is where it became problematic. And this is where, when we were sort of on the front foot, it probably would have been the perfect time for us to bring in this next manager that will hopefully be able to take us to the next level. Moyes has done very well with very little tools, but suddenly you start bringing in the players like Paqueta. It's completely different, and it's completely, I guess, alien to him in terms of the way that he plays, the kind of players that he likes. And then you've got the issue where we've had Steiten wanting a certain type of player and Moyes wanting a certain type of player. And there were all the rumours about whether or not they were butting heads, and all of this stuff makes you wonder, basically, how we thought it was going to work long term, because Moyes was not going to adapt to become the kind of manager that he isn't. And I do also understand that, because I think if I was a manager, my head's on the chopping block. I'm not going to want someone else telling me which players to bring in, who to play and how to play them. And at the same time, obviously, he believed in what he was doing in terms of the way that he was playing. As fans, we all wanted something a lot more attacking and positive. But he was never going to change that up. As like every manager has to be headstrong and I guess play games their own way. And that was the stumbling block, where Moyes was no longer the manager that we needed to be able to step it up another level. And instead, we kind of sat still to the point where we started dropping back down. But this is where I really, really hope that the next manager can come in and can actually pick up what we've got, fix some things, bring in some new talent with Tim. I hope Tim Steiten's cooking away in the kitchen of the summer transfer window right now. And we go again, because we're not in a position that we have been in the past, right? We've been in terrible positions in the past where we're scraping by, staying in the Premier League just about. We've got injuries, we've got terrible players, we've got good players, we've got some injury problems, we've got a lack of squad depth, goes without saying. But also, we are an attractive club to go to right now. We are. And I know that It's looking unlikely now that we're going to get European football, but we are a club that's in contention for European football. And if we come back and do better next season with the group of players that we currently have, we had an incredibly good start to the season. And that is why we're still in a half decent league position, despite the fact that we've dropped so many points since the start of 2024. So I still believe that with these players, if we can have a manager that can bring the best out of these players, if they've all got a point to prove because they want to show that they should be the ones that are playing for this manager, then there's a lot that could go our way again. It's just about unlocking it and giving the right players the creativity and setting them up in the right way. People are saying Lopetegui's really good at playing people in the right positions. This is the kind of stuff that we need. And then bringing in that left winger or whatever we need to be able to actually thrive and not just scrape by. So there we go. Those are some of your thoughts. But I want to know how you're feeling and your thoughts. So drop us a comment and let us know. Basically, what are your thoughts on Moyes' departure? And are you surprised with how you're feeling? Because I was a little bit surprised with how, not emotional, that's probably the wrong way to put it, but how bittersweet it felt, despite the fact that I wanted Moyes to leave and I was excited at the idea of another manager, but I didn't quite know who. Obviously, I would have liked Amorim, but, probably impossible, never going to happen. But I was surprised at how bittersweet it felt, because it's kind of like one of those breakups where things were once really good and you're like, oh, it's a bit sad that it's ended, but it needed to end. You know what I mean? Anyway, that is all for me for now. But tune in at 5 p.m. where I'm going to be running through your Hammers headlines for the day. If you've enjoyed this video, as always, please do give it a thumbs up, comment below, and of course, make sure you're subscribed to the West Ham Network. We've got some very, very exciting content coming out at the moment, so you do not want to miss it. And hit that little bell so that you get notified when a video comes out. That's the ultimate way to be the first ones commenting, first ones watching it. The dream. Until next time, West Ham Network, have a great one and come on, you Irons.